And experts say thousands of people are left without a stable roof over their heads.
One industry that has emerged promises home ownership to people who can't get a bank loan. Is called rent to own. But some say it just doesn't work.
In today's video, we're talking about the term rent to own, what that means for you, whether you're a buyer who's participating in a rent to own program, buying a piece of property, either a mobile home, a single family home, something else, some other type of property. You're making payments to somebody on a rent to own program, or you're an investor and your exit strategy is to sell a property via a rent to own program. Well, on this video, I want to talk to both people. I want to give you checklists of what to watch out for, how to protect yourself, how to protect the buyers, and how to protect, well, if you're the buyer, how to protect yourself. So stay tuned, watch this video, and let's just jump into it. The first thing I want to mention is that the term rent to own is a loose term. It's a vague term. There's really no rent to own piece of paper that you're going to sign if you're a buyer. By the way, I first want to talk to buyers and then I'll talk to investors. So buyers, I'm talking to you right now. And typically the term rent to own is a loose term. It's a term that means that you're going to make payments to somebody to one day have the right to own that property. You're not going to own it in the beginning. You're going to be making payments to somebody for the right to one day own the property. Let's take a look at what a typical sort of rent to own contract looks like. And this can look very different from really from the very beginning, depending on the paper that you're signing. And again, there won't be typically a rent to own paper. You know, it won't say that at the top, rent to own. It'll say lease with an option to purchase. It'll say land contract. It'll say some other term, and you want to make sure you thoroughly read that contract. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But at the beginning, you're going to, this is sort of a timeline from start to end. And it's not even really until the end. We'll talk about that here in a second. But when you start, you're going to sign a contract as the buyer, as the person that one day has the possibility to own this particular property. And the contract usually states, the specific home that you're going to be buying. It usually locks in a set price that you're going to buy this home in the future for $20,000 or $200,000. And it's typically going to say when that closing date will be, how the closing is going to be held, how you're going to have to pay on the home, the monthly payments between now and then. And these rent-to-own contracts, they can be anywhere from 6 months or less, all the way up to 30 or more years. Typically, most sellers of property, rent-to-own contracts are around 1 to 5 years. That's, if you're buying a property from somebody on a rent-to-own contract, you're probably going to sign this paper to say, for the next 1 to 5 years, I'm making you on-time payments. And at the end of the contract, whenever it says that the contract is going to be paid through, at the end of that, at the end of the 5 years or the 1 year, you're going to have a couple different options as the buyer. You're going to have to go to a bank or a mortgage broker or a lender and go get a new loan. Just like everybody else, whenever they want to go buy a home, if they're not paying cash, they're going to go to a bank. So in 1 to 5 years, give or take, you may have to be making credit repairs. There's credit repair programs, you can do things yourself, but you want to be working on your credit between the start, and at the start you typically have to put down a down payment, fill out an application. The investor or the person selling you the home, the owner should do a background check on you. And you start making your payments, on-time payments, possibly with some credit repair that you're consciously making an effort to improve your credit, and this is a possibility depending on the contract you sign, some amount of your monthly payment is going towards the price of the home. It's being set aside in a separate account, 5%, 50% of that, 0%, depending on what you signed, a fraction of what you're paying is going to go towards the price of the home when you buy it. Now, you're usually responsible for repairs while you're in this rent-to-own contract before you actually purchase the home. Now, in the beginning of the contract, it really is usually just sort of a rental loose contract. If you didn't pay, the owner of the home, the landlord, could then evict you. You don't have any usually equitable rights until you actually own the home. Until there's something recorded in public record saying, there's a deed on the property, there's a mortgage on the property, something that you own the home. So the reason I mention that, and I don't want to confuse anybody listening to this, but the contract that you sign here, you're very vulnerable between here and the time that you actually buy the property. Once you buy it and it's in your name, there's a deed in your name and it's recorded down at the courthouse for the whole world to see that you own this property, well then you're a little bit more protected. You're safe, it's your home. But between here and here, you could very well get into some issues, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit because I want to talk to you about the checklist to watch out for. And when everybody's paying, things are usually good. But I get emails at least once a month from various buyers around the country, buying single-family homes, usually buying mobile homes in parks, mobile homes on land. I get at least one email a month saying that, John, I've been paying on time and I haven't done anything wrong, and now there's some issue that the person who was selling me the home, they don't have the right paperwork. They don't have ownership like they thought they did. They weren't paying some sort of underlying debt and there's a problem or there's some other problem. So it's important to resolve these issues. If you're buying a home, you want to make sure that you're not stepping into any sort of any sort of booby traps. If you don't pay, well then that's one thing. If you default, well then of course, you're an adult, you need to pay on time. And if there's an issue, well then hopefully you can work that out with the person that you're buying it from. But in a lot of situations, or in a number of situations, I don't want to say a lot, whether it's a majority or minority, through no fault of your own, you might be in a situation that catches you by surprise.
That's like the main part. I miss my neighbors.
Nikisha Stone is talking about her old neighborhood in Clay Chalkville and the memories of her old house she thought they'd live in forever.
Oh, the barbecue.
They were living the happily ever after until one day they got a note on the door.
The house has been placed into foreclosure.
A baffling moment because Stone says they always paid the bills on time. But it turns out it was not their delinquency that cut her dream short. Stone says the family paid $5,000 down and $1,000 a month to the sellers under a rent-to-own contract to have the option to someday own that home. So imagine her shock to learn that the seller had mortgaged the home and wasn't paying the bank, and that this rent-to-own deal wasn't working out as she planned.
How do you tell a family that they have a home and then they don't? I don't feel like it's right.
Now, that story is obviously heartbreaking and could have been avoided. Obviously, the investor, the person that's selling them the home, maybe they weren't an investor, maybe it was just a person that owned the home and they wanted to sell it. They lived in it and they wanted to sell it. But that person was a piece of trash. Someone that clearly was setting this buyer up for failure. They knew they weren't making the underlying bank payments, and they were taking this person's money every single month on good faith, knowing that they would one day, not own the home because the home would go into foreclosure. Now, this part of this video is still talking to people that are going to be buying properties, people that are, the end users that are going to be purchasing a home via a rent-to-own program. And again, it's important to know that from this point, until you actually own the home, until the deed is transferred into your name, all property around the country has a deed. If it owns land, if there's a piece of land involved, then there will be a deed, and your name needs to be on the deed, and then you can have some security. Or the title, if there's a title to a mobile home, if we're talking about a mobile home in a park, or even on its own piece of land, there may be a title. In which case that ownership, that title, and that deed shows that you are the owner. But between here and here, just like you saw in that recent video, something can happen. You're not in full control. So let's go over this checklist of what I want you to look for. And this is going to be, I'm going to go through these sort of quick. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me at support@mobilehomeinvesting.net. You want to check the ownership. Make sure that the person you selling the property is the actual owner. You wouldn't believe how many times that this happens, whether we're talking about a mobile home in a park or a single family home. Just because you're talking to the person that you're talking to that says they're the owner, that has the keys, that's showing you this property, it doesn't mean that necessarily they're the owner. So make sure that the person that you're saying is the owner is the owner. Now, it shows online, usually at the property appraiser's website for your area. If this is a piece of property attached to land or a single family home, then usually on the property appraiser's website, or you can go down to your local property appraiser's office, give them the address and they'll be able to tell you who shows up as the owner if this is a mobile home on land or a single family home or a condo or a townhouse. If it's a mobile home in a park, then you're going to want to look at the title And we have this right here. Ask for a copy of the title if it's a mobile home. We'll get to that in just a second. But verify that the owner is who they say they are. Also check property taxes. Are property taxes current? Just because you're going to be buying the home from the real owner, property taxes may be behind and you may be walking into a trap. And there's actually a couple ways that this could screw you, and so you really want to make sure that property taxes are paid. Whether it's a mobile home, in a park, on a piece of land, a single family home, whatever it is, make sure property taxes are paid. And again, it's not going to be you that has to pay this typically until you own the property. But the person you're buying it from, they should be responsible enough to make the property tax payments.
Residents of a North Georgia mobile home park may be without a place to live. Property taxes went unpaid for years on 28 trailers in the Stony Point Mobile Home Park. The Walker County Tax Commissioner says the back tax debt is thousands of dollars. County officials are now stepping in to collect the money owed. Channel 3's Kate Smith is live in Rossville. Kate, tell us how the residents learned about this.
Well, Cindy, county workers taped these notices onto homes, informing people that the property has been seized and the county will auction off their homes. Now people living here are struggling to figure out what's next for them.
So actually we're going to end up on the street because they don't want to pay the taxes.
Marshall Wilson has rented property at the Stony Point Mobile Park for 3 years. He had no idea his home was delinquent in taxes.
I checked our taxes is $13,375 is what we owe right now. There's no way we could pay it.
The property owner is Tom. He doesn't own the mobile homes that sit on his property. That's where it gets confusing for Tax Commissioner Carolyn Walker.
It appears that the homes have been rented and maybe leased to own to persons, and they have all these delinquent taxes, and the people are now getting frightened that they're going to lose their home.
And if you're kind of catching people off guard, by the way, if they're, oh, well, I don't know about it. If they don't sound like they know what they're talking about, maybe that's a red flag as well. So check property taxes. If there's an underlying loan on this home, that's okay. In some states, it's actually not. You're not supposed to rent to own a home if there's an underlying loan on the property. But if there is an underlying loan, make sure that you see and you verify recent mortgage statement coupons or the mortgage bill that this seller that's selling to you is going to get every single month. Because guess what? Mortgage payment is due. It's due to the bank. So every single month they're going to get a coupon or a statement saying, okay, you got to pay this much. Thank you for your last payment. Everything's cool. And you want to see that from the bank. They can block out, personal information, but you need to see that, okay, they're making their payments every month and their credit is important. They don't want this home to go into foreclosure. Also confirm that there's no liens. On the mobile home title itself, if you actually have a title to a mobile home, usually you can see if there's liens there's a lien section on the title, or the person won't actually have the title because it'll be held by the bank because there's a lien on it. Verify you know exactly what's going on. These aren't necessarily deal breakers, but you absolutely should know what's going on. Confirm the seller with the park manager. If this is a mobile home in a park, ask the park manager, hey, do you know so-and-so? Are they the owners to this property? That's not going to guarantee anything, but it does help. And sometimes you're going to be buying this directly from the park. Don't feel like they can't give you all this other stuff. They should show you the title. They should have title on file. They should be able to prove that taxes are current. Also, potentially allow an attorney to review your paperwork. I say 2 times here, but you want to look at your paperwork once or double check your paperwork. So allow an attorney to double check your paperwork. You look over it and then they need to look over it. Also, look at repairs. Too many times buyers walk through a property without fully looking at what they're buying. You're buying a house, you're buying a home. Make sure you know exactly what needs to be done. The investor, the person that's selling you the home, they know exactly what needs to be done. You need to make sure you know what needs to be done, and make sure that if there is something that the seller is not telling you, if it's a big thing, that's a little fishy. That's a little shady as to, somebody's selling you a property and they omitted or they didn't tell you, something that was wrong, like the water heater didn't work or this didn't work or that didn't work. And if they honestly didn't know, then that's one thing, but make sure you know what repairs that you're getting into, because again, you're responsible not just for the repairs when you get into the home, but moving forward. And also, you may want to hire an inspector. $200, $300, $400 can be well worth it. You may be able to negotiate the price down if there's a lot more repairs than expected. You might be able to get those repairs or some money taken off of the move-in fee or the option payment or the money that you give the seller in the beginning. So inspectors, there should be, if you want to do that, you absolutely can. You have every right to. If it's going to freak your seller out, well, again, that's kind of sketchy as to why would they be worried about an inspector coming through the home. Read 100% of the paperwork, not 80%, not 20%. Read all of it. If you're given this paperwork only at closing, and I say this is closing, it's not really closing because you're not buying the property, but when you sign paperwork, make sure you know what you're signing. Take all the time you need. If you need to take it home or look at it or somewhere else or have somebody look over it, you have every right to do that. Ask for a copy of the mobile home title. Doesn't mean they have to give it to you, but it'd be good to see and it'd be good to have if you could have it. Save all your deposit receipts. When you do move forward and you are paying every month, save every single deposit receipt that you make or that you send. We're going to skip this one right now and go to new loan requirements. If you have to get a new loan, say you're buying a single family home or a mobile home attached to land. Well, when you go to get a new loan on that, let's say it's a mobile home attached to land, some mobile homes are on land are not financeable. If the home's been moved too many times, or if it's on a foundation that isn't bank approved, the underwriters of the bank say, no, we don't want to lend money on that home. Some homes are very difficult to get bank financeable or to get bank financing on. So you don't want to say, well, yeah, sure, I'll buy it in 3 years. I'll get a new loan on it, when maybe the person selling it to you knows that it would be very difficult for you to get a loan in the first place. And that's even what some people do. Some people, very few professional sort of real estate buyers and sellers, investors, want to set you up for failure. And that's a very scary thing, because as the person watching this video, you're not probably a real estate expert or you're not a real estate professional. You do other things besides real estate and you do them really well. And you are looking to have people that you trust, that are trustworthy. If you say you want to buy a home and they want to sell it, well, you should come to a meeting of the minds. And usually that meeting of the minds is the contract. You just have to know what you're signing, why you're signing, and make sure that you know what you're buying. Now, don't be bullied. I want to come to this one right now, because if you don't have a lot of money, the whole rent-to-own business came about because people don't have the money necessarily to go to a bank or to put 20% down or to have the credit right now to buy a home and go to a bank. So the whole point of rent-to-own, it can attract people that don't have a lot of money in savings, their credit is not the best, and you can feel vulnerable. Because, if you don't buy this home on a rent-to-own contract, somebody else will, and you're going to miss out on it. The fear of missing out is a real thing, and I want to talk to you, the person that is going to be looking at a home to buy on a rent-to-own contract. If anything is going wrong, if you feel in your gut that something is wrong, you're not being talked to the right way, you're being talked down to, there's something that doesn't seem right, something that we've talked about, or maybe something else, don't be afraid to walk away from this opportunity. There will be more rent-to-owns, and you may get into a situation where, a couple of years down the road, you wish you never got into that situation. People that are selling properties, you're going to be creating a 5-year relationship. Maybe not, maybe only 1 year or more, but you're going to be creating a long-term relationship with these sellers. With one seller, the person that's selling you the property. If they are talking down to you, if they're being rude to you, if they're being insulting towards you or anything like that, that is not the right way to start off a relationship. That person has problems and they're mad at somebody else, but it's not you. Unless it is you and you are saying they're doing something that would cause that type of reaction, but even that shouldn't cause that type of reaction. So if you haven't bought a place yet and someone's being rude to you, or they're being too quick with you, or they're not giving you respect, or they're talking down to you, you might want to get out of that situation. But at very least, whether the person's being a sweetheart or slightly rude, make sure you go through this. Make sure you know who you're buying the home from, they are who they say they are, and you're protected and you know what you're signing. I really hope that helps and that makes sense. If you have any questions, like I said, support at mobilehomeinvesting.net. That was what I wanted to discuss for folks that are buying a property.
Lawyers in Texas studied rent-to-own deals there and found a failure rate around 45%, nearly 1 out of every 2.
Now, I want to talk directly to the investors out there, to the people that are going to be selling properties with rent-to-own or via rent-to-own, whether they're mobile homes, whether it's a single-family home, whether it's something else. I want to talk to you. And we got a new background. Would you look at that? So right here, we still have sort of this spectrum from 90% to 10% default rate. And actually it goes farther than that, 100% default rate. I make a separate video explaining that for the first couple years in this business, I had about 100% default rate. I really didn't know what I was doing properly screening people, and it really showed me that we can choose our business. As an investor, you can choose your business model. And here's what I mean. If you're a quality investor, you want to do right by people, you want to set people up for success, then you'll put people in your properties that have a high likelihood of paying. They have a high likelihood, they have the ability to repay. They're safe buyers that you know more than likely are probably going to purchase this home and stay in your property. They have decent credit, they have a good income, they have really, really good background. Maybe not really good, picture perfect, but they are a high likelihood of succeeding. You can also set people up for failure. You know, because people, as an investor, somebody's going to be buying your property. They're emotional. They want it. They get hungry. They get a little bit greedy. They think, oh my gosh, I can purchase this home and it'd be wonderful for my family and I'd be so proud and this is the first property I'm ever going to own. You can take advantage of that seller. That came out wrong. You should never take advantage of that seller, but investors can. And that's what I want on this, section of the talk. I really want to say that as an investor, you can manipulate the situation. You can take advantage. That's a lot of power. And like Spider-Man's uncle, with great power comes great responsibility. And there really should be great responsibility. We're changing people's lives for the better usually, or you're screwing with them and screwing with them for the worse. So really the people, I hope listening to my voice, you're not trying to take advantage of people. You're not trying to kick the can down the road, or because you bought something bad, now you want to pass it along to somebody else and pass the problem off to somebody else. That's not the type of investor that you should be. However, it is the type of investor that you can be. And like I said, we can set people up for failure or success. So I just want to make it a point, right now, say to yourself, how you want to do business. Do you want people to fail so you get homes back and can resell them again, and you have this shady business where you're not really helping people, but you're kind of screwing them? Or do you want to help people? And yes, you sell properties down the road, and that's a good thing because you're going to get more and you're going to have a long-term business with good word-of-mouth reputation and good word-of-mouth reputation. It's so quick to lose that reputation, but it's so slow to gain. So really try to treat people right. There's a lot of properties out there. There's a lot of homes out there. But just, having a business where you consciously put people in knowing that they're going to default. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you're not that type of investor. Perfect, wonderful. But if you are, maybe rethink what you're doing. I mean, you're not stupid. We really need to try to have empathy for the people that we're working with. We surround ourselves with buyers and sellers. We're in the trenches with folks. And having some empathy for people that you're working with, both buyers and sellers, really to create win-win scenarios. That's the name of the game. And I know most people listening to this are like, yeah, John, we would do that. That's obvious. But there's some people out there that, greed and money just is worth way more. It was worth their soul, it's worth their conscience, it's worth, screwing people over for. So I guess that's the first thing. I'll get off my soapbox right now, but I basically am saying, do you want to set people up for failure or success? When I started this business, I started with 100% default rate because the people I was putting in, I was doing with no background checks. People with a pulse that have some money, come on in, you're welcome, move right in. We'll sign paperwork. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I was setting people up for failure and not success. Now I'm happy to say that I have less than a 10% default rate every year because I really know the people who are going into my properties. And I make a couple other videos with regards to how to pre-screen people. It's not just, hey, they passed my third-party background check and they have a little bit of money. There's a lot more that goes into it. Remember, if you're selling a property and you really want to sell it, most people, most people don't live in a property more than 2 years. If you're selling this on a rent-to-own contract for 4 or 5 years, people don't even have friends for that long sometimes. So it's like, you really have to make sure that you do a lot of pre-screening. The way that I just told the potential buyers to do a lot of pre-screening on us as investors, we need to do a lot of pre-screening, 100%, excuse me, to know who is moving into our properties. So I hope that made sense. Right now I want to talk to you about the checklist with regards to what to look out for and how to protect yourself, how to protect your buyers when you are selling a mobile home or a single family home via a rent-to-own contract. Now, as an investor selling with a rent-to-own contract, it's so important to know things do vary a little bit state to state, but it's so important to have yourself set a win-win price and terms for this property. As an investor, we can certainly make our money selling a home at a retail price, but try not to make the home a burden for your buyers. They shouldn't be a prisoner to their property. There should be, it should be an affordable amount monthly, an affordable amount to move in. And if the home does need repairs, allow your buyer to make repairs. You know how much money they have coming in every month. Money doesn't grow on trees, so you have to be realistic that, okay, these people want to come into the home, they want to make payments to you, they want to make repairs, so you have to be flexible there. People only make so much, so you have to take into account the repairs that are needed on the home if you are selling a home with repairs. Be very, 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 very thorough on your background check and your vetting process. Again, in the description down below, I'll post a couple videos on background checks for your potential buyers. Disclose all repairs that are known. Be very thorough with that. Verify that the home is financeable. Also that the buyer is financeable. Call up a couple local banks or credit unions or work with a mortgage broker to understand, yes, my home is bank financeable. Most properties are, unless it's in some sort of weird location or on the edge of a cliff, or it's a mobile home that's been moved a bunch of times, or again, it's a weird situation. But make sure that the home is financeable. You should know that as the investor already. And also make sure that your buyer is financeable. Different banks require different sort of underwriting guidelines. Does this buyer, if they plan on only putting 10% down or 5% down in the future when they buy this home and they go to a bank to get a new loan, what does the buyer need to have? What credit score, what kind of income, what kind of debt ratio, what kind of down payment? Can the down payment come from the money that they paid you throughout these couple of years that they're renting the home from you? Can that money come from you because they've made you on-time payments? Also make sure you have proper and legal paperwork. Again, depending on how you're selling the home, I don't want to get into that too much because it could be, are you exchanging equitable interest in the property up front? Are you waiting until down the road? Is this a land contract, some other sort of owner financing situation from the beginning? Is it a lease with an option or some separate option, or what exactly is going on? So depending on, again, your situation, make sure what you're doing is more than legal. Having an attorney go through your paperwork is a good idea. Or you don't have to, but I mean, that would be a smart idea. Proper bookkeeping and insurance. This really should have been 2 lines, but proper bookkeeping, make sure that as after the person is inside of your home, keep good records of what they're paying, what they're fixing, what they're not paying you, of course. Also go through and maybe take pictures, of the different repairs so you can have those on file, and make sure that there's insurance on the property. Until these people own the home, until your buyers own the home, make sure you have insurance on this property to protect everyone, you and the buyer. I hope that this all helps and makes sense. And if you're still watching this, if you have any questions or concerns or thoughts or objections, please comment below or email me at support@mobilehomeinvesting.net. The purpose of this video is to help you, to give you more clarity and to not be sort of caught off guard or screwed over, or, just the more clarity that you have, the better. The more questions you know to ask, the better. So again, I hope that this helps and makes sense. I hope this came through. Again, one thing, on here may not be a deal breaker, but if there's a lot of things that you don't feel good about, or you're feeling rushed, or you're feeling either from a buyer or a seller, you can always choose to walk away or to give it time and maybe pass on that deal and go to another one, or pass on this potential buyer and go to another one. Please feel free to comment below, reach out to me. Support@mobilehomeinvesting.net. Thank you so much for watching this. I feel like I'm rambling right now. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.